I sometimes feel like we human beings put ourselves in boxes. Boxes where we just don't want to change our minds. We don't want to be convinced of other possibilities about life. And I think this is one of the greatest challenges of being human. And I want to talk about those boxes today and invite us to consider the possibility of stepping out of those boxes. The founder of Science of Mind, Ernest Holmes, used to say, change your thinking, change your life. That was one of his foundational statements, something we say a lot in our communities. And when we're talking about changing our thinking, it means we've got to change our approach, our attitudes. We've got to find ways to change sometimes our emotional state. We've got to find a way to change what we think about each other and the world, or else we just get to keep moving forward in the same groove, literally in the same groove. The great Wayne Dyer used to say, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. What does that mean? So I invite each one of us right now to just take some time to think about some boxes we're in. Are we stuck in a political box? Are we stuck in a generational box? Are we stuck in a box of spiritual awareness? Are we stuck in a box of morality and what's right and wrong? And these are some of the signs that you're stuck in a box. If you're making other people wrong, if you are sure you're right, if you feel a lot of judgment and energy about people's choices and can't understand what they're doing, if you talk about it a lot, if you feel angst about it a lot, if you wonder why they can't see the forest for the trees and what's wrong with that next generation because they whatever, or what's wrong with the old people because they whatever, what's wrong with that political party, what's wrong with that world leader, what's wrong with those people who choose to do this or choose to do that, or all of those kinds of thoughts, they're boxes. And see, we have something that's so magnificent and powerful. It's our mind. It's our awareness. And what I've learned and what I love, and I teach in classes a lot, is that our mind is like an amazing search engine. Now, I'm not just making this up. There's some neurology components, or neurological components, I should probably say. That's probably more proper. I have a box where I have to say words just right sometimes, but there's a neurological component to this. There is a part of the brain that I've read a lot about, and it's a whole system in the brain called the reticular formatory system of the brain. And it's basically the part of our brain that is firing off and basically shows us over and over what we already believe. So if we already believe that kids these days, blah, 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 if we're somewhere where there's a bunch of kids, because of the reticular formatory system, we're going to spot a kid. There could be 100 kids in the room, but our search engine is going to hone in on the one kid who proves we're right. See, kids these days. If we have some perception about everybody in that political party, and they this and they that, then the reticular formatory system of the brain is going to support us. And we could see somebody who is in that other party who is doing something completely different or opposite of what we believe, and we'd never notice them, or we wouldn't trust them, or we would have some negative thought about them. And what this all does is it supports us in feeling right, but is that really good? Isn't that just the booby prize? Isn't that a big deal? Not. I think the big deal is, how can I be more connected to all of the beings in this life? How can I see my connection? Because one of the things that happens with this reticular formatory system until we challenge it is that it keeps us in separation. And it keeps us from using our superpower. And our superpower is oneness and connection. Our superpower is what helps us feel the divine, to encounter God, to have grand, spiritually deep experiences, and to feel the love of the universe. And not only that, our superpower is the way that we can be a problem solver, a bridge builder, that we can contribute to the challenges that our world is facing, because we will never solve those problems by staying in our box, by continuing to indulge ourselves in these beliefs that separate us from other people. So we have to be willing to shift our own awareness. To do this, we got to be aware of our awareness. We have to wake up and allow ourselves to see, gosh, I'm really in a box. Every time I hear about that political party or that group of people or people who do this or people who do that, I'm projecting onto them my own thoughts and my own experience. And I have to know this is called implicit bias. This is why there's so much conversation in our world today about implicit bias. I'm only going to see and experience what I keep affirming I'm going to see and experience. So I have to see myself in the box. And then there's some questions that we have to ask, and they're really uncomfortable questions to ask. But here they are. What if I'm wrong? What if I'm wrong about all of those people over there? What if I'm wrong about that party or that spiritual tradition? What if I'm wrong about people who've done this or that or the other? Could I be wrong? Could there be a good reason why that's happening? I have to ask myself that. We don't like to ask ourselves that question, because the question we really prefer is, show me I'm right. Right? I'm right, aren't I? I'm right, right? And so being willing to ask myself, what if I'm wrong? It can open our mind to begin to see new possibilities. That is a doorway into that connection that I'm talking about, that oneness and that connection. And then another question we can ask ourselves is, how can I see this or them differently? How could I see this or them differently? That question might cause me to do some research. That question might cause me to have a courageous conversation. That question might cause me to even go into my imagination. Because for every human being that I look at in the world who I think is horrible or flawed or despicable or whatever word I might describe, the truth about them is that there's probably something that we have in common with them. Even if it's just that we love to be loved and accepted. It could be something as simple as that. And so being willing to challenge myself to see how I could see this differently or see them differently can open up so much more for me. So again, the goal is to soften into connection or soften into oneness. When we do this, we make way for the creative intelligence of the universe that is pouring itself to us and through us to have its way with us. This allows us to have a deeper spiritual experience and to experience our own light and life with God as us. This allows us to be creative and think outside the box. And this allows us to break away from that box of perception that we've been tied to or stuck to, that keeps us disconnected, separate, and I dare say, so unhappy. The happiest people I know are the people who've learned to do this. Because being connected to all of life, even though I can always say, I don't agree with that, or I don't agree with that person, or I wish that was different, or I'd like to contribute something to make that better. That's all fine. But the energy that we have that allows us to feel as though we have a right to literally make people so wrong that we separate ourselves from them, it'll never work. And the reason it doesn't work, I shared in a talk at Mile High on a Sunday recently, is that the minute that I choose not to love or appreciate another person and put them out on that island of misfit human beings, or put situations out on that island, well, because of oneness, I can't help but put myself there too. Wherever I put anybody, I put myself. And so my ability to experience greater love and to be a contribution and a beneficial presence is depleted every time I put somebody out on the island of misfit people. So this week, I encourage you to consider, how can I be more connected? How can I break that cycle? How can I get out of my own box? For the sake of happiness, for the sake of the people you share your life with, for the sake of all of us, let's get out of the boxes. Join me as we pray together about this. Purpose of our prayer is to expand our awareness. So I settled into that inner space, allowing myself to feel and sense the power and the presence that flows beautifully through this universe. I imagine the big, magnificent things that I see in this universe, planets and solar systems and constellations, and allow myself to recognize the beauty of the infinite in those things. And I allow myself to see the beauty of our beautiful planet, this ecosystem, sunsets and sunrises, the moon, the stars at night, to see the plants and the animals and the oceans and the lakes, to see the beautiful landscapes here and all of the beings who exist on this planet, and recognize that no matter where my awareness goes, it's all God, it's all spirit in a myriad of forms. And so as I see this now, I can recognize that right here where I am, that presence exists as me. It is speaking this word that I am speaking. It is the consciousness that directs this word. That here in this moment of oneness, that energy that is pouring itself through all of creation is pouring itself through me. And therefore I am using it here and now as I speak my word on our behalf to declare the truth about myself and all who are within the sound of my voice. I accept and affirm that each one of us experiences a greater awakening that enhances our ability to feel and be connected to the oneness. We step out of our boxes of perception in ways that no longer serve us. We allow ourselves to consciously let go of any thoughts about individuals or groups of people that are keeping us in a state of separation and anxiety. And instead we choose to step into the circle of love, the circle of life that is the true kingdom of heaven calling to us now, that requires us to be rid of those ideas and perceptions that no longer serve us, to be rid of those ideas and perceptions that keep us apart from all of our fellow humans, and allow ourselves to be and live in and as the oneness. So I accept and declare that right now, each of us is being guided to an expanded awareness of love and light, being guided to move forward in a greater sense of that love and light, to serve our own heart and our own spiritual journey, and to serve all beings everywhere as we do this great and holy work. And I'm so thankful for this now, so thankful for every person who takes a step forward in this journey of connectedness. For whenever one person does this, it makes way for all of us to do this. And I'm so grateful for that oneness that calls each of us home to it, and for each one of us who says yes to that sacred journey. I release this prayer now into the action of that universal law that makes it so. I release it with trust. I release it in faith. I know that as it has been spoken, it is done. And I let it go and let it be. And so it is. Amen.